When it comes to the influence of speed, breaststroke is a stroke where everything changes and nothing changes. More than any other stroke, breaststrokers struggle to manage their stroke and execute their stroke at different speeds. We're going to discuss why that is, what needs to change, what doesn't need to change in order to help your swimmers go faster and swim more effective breaststroke. Hi everyone, Andrew here, helping you help your swimmers get faster. Breaststroke is a tough one because some things need to change a lot, some things don't need to change much at all, and unfortunately, swimmers change what they don't want to change and they don't change what they do want to change. Well, that might seem a little complicated. We're going to check out what that means in detail so you can understand how speed impacts breaststroke swimming. As always, it's critical to focus on the most important skills that create speed and try to understand why they're happening, because those are the ones we need to influence with our training programs. So by focusing on details or certain positions that are probably going to vary to a great extent from swimmer to swimmer, we're missing the boat. If we can understand the underlying and foundational principles, then our interventions are going to be a lot more effective and a lot more successful. So let's check out how breaststroke is influenced by speed and what changes and what doesn't need to change. We're going to take a look at two different swimmers here because they represent the extremes of what's happening in breaststroke when things are performed at slower speeds and then when things are performed at faster speeds. Both these swimmers have been world record holders, both of these swimmers have been world champions, and both of these swimmers have been Olympic champions. The first one is a male swimming over 200 meters, and the second one is going to be a female swimming over 100 meters. So we're going to take a look at what stays very similar and what doesn't change. So first, we'll take a look at what's very similar. And so if we watch here, what's going to be pretty similar, once he starts the pull, he's pretty aggressive, it looks pretty similar, and he gets through the pull, through the entire pull pretty fast. He's not particularly patient once he starts the pull. He does what he needs to do, and he gets back into an aligned position. Now, if we watch the legs, they're also going to stay really similar. He's going to wait a while to start the kick, but once he does, the legs move up pretty fast, and then he snaps that kick back pretty fast, and he's really effective with that kick. Next thing to watch is the breathing, and so he's going to come up. He's not going to take his time taking the breath. He's going to get the head back down in position, and he's just going to take a normal breath. He's not coming up any lower. He's not coming up any higher. He's getting back into the stroke cycle as quickly as he can. So the pull, in terms of the actual pull itself, is very similar. The kick, in terms of what actually happens, is pretty similar, and the breath, in terms of what happens, is pretty similar. Now, when comparing these two swimmers, they're not exactly the same swimmer, so there's going to be some differences because they have a different style to breaststroke. But again, we're going to try to look at the big picture concepts of what stays the same and what changes. So if we watch here, she's going to take her pull. She's going to be relatively aggressive through that pull. She's going to take her time setting it up. She's not going to rush through the pull, but she's going to pull fast, and she's going to keep the arms moving. So she's being aggressive with the pull, and she's pulling effectively. She's getting into basically the same positions as the 200 swimmer. She's setting it up right here, getting into a good position, and then squeezing together, and then throwing it forward. So in terms of the mechanics of the pull, it's pretty similar. She's not going out any wider. She's not being any narrower. She's not pulling it back any further. She's not chopping off the stroke earlier. She's very similar in terms of what she's doing. So if we watch the kick here, she's going to be patient with it, and then she's going to set it up, and then she's going to drive it right back, just like the other swimmer did. And so the mechanics of the kick are pretty similar too. She's just setting up the kick, and then she's driving it straight back, and she recovers the legs pretty fast, and she kicks pretty fast as well. Now, if we watch the breath here, she's coming up just as high, same thing. The hips stay in the same position, and she's getting the head and the hips back down in a position pretty well. So again, she's not the same breaststroker. She's doing some things a little bit differently, but the general mechanics of the kick and the pull, the breath and the body position, they're all really similar. So regardless of the speed that swimmers are trying to hit, they don't necessarily want to change how they pull. They don't necessarily want to change how they kick. They don't want to change how they breathe. They don't want to change the hip position or the body position that they get when they breathe or they get back into after they breathe. Those things need to remain relatively constant. And so when swimmers are trying to pick up their speed, that's not where they want to make any changes. They don't want to pull faster. They don't want to recover faster or slower. They don't want to kick slower or kick faster. Those things need to stay the same. So what changes? It's all about timing, and timing is probably the biggest thing that swimmers struggle with in breaststroke. And that's why we have swimmers that really struggle to stay long. We have swimmers that really struggle to stay short. And sometimes we have unfortunate swimmers that struggle with both. Let's check out what changes, what happens, and that can provide you with some information about what you need to do, how you need to approach the situation to help them learn more effective timing. So what the biggest difference here is going to be what happens between the kick and what happens between the pull. So he's starting his pull here, and then he's going to get back in alignment, and then he's going to kick. And then look how much space there is between the kick and the next pull. He's taken all the time in the world. And so he's also going to be a little bit more patient between when he pulls and then when he starts the kick. So he only starts to move his legs right about here, and then there's going to be a ton of patience after that kick. So that's the biggest difference. There's a ton of space after the kick and before the pull, and there's more space after the pull and before the kick. So the arm motions and the leg motions don't really change, but the timing between them changes a lot. And so there's going to be more patience between the kick and the pull, and more patience between the pull and the kick. And that's going to be the biggest difference in how breaststroke changes between 200-meter racing and the other extreme 50-meter racing. There's going to be a lot more space in between the arm pulls and the kicks. That's going to allow swimmers to maintain more speed with less energy. And when they're trying to go fast, everything is a lot more compressed, and there's a lot less time, a lot less space between those different movements. So if we watch our sprinter here, she's going to finish the kick, and then bam, she's getting right into the pull right away. She's wasting no time. And she's getting into the kick even sooner than our other swimmer. The biggest difference, though, is going to be the timing in the front of the stroke. So she's got no hesitation here. She's getting right into it. And there's also going to be very little separation between the finish of the pull and then the recovery of the legs to get back in a position to kick effectively. So swimmers can go faster by taking less break in between the arms and the legs. So without changing the pull or the kick itself, by compressing those two movements, by leaving less time in between those movements, swimmers can go faster because there's more propulsion being created per unit time. And so if swimmers can learn how to take the same exact skills, they're not trying to pick up the arm speed, they're not trying to pick up the leg speed, they're just trying to get into the next stroke cycle faster, that can make a huge difference in terms of how fast they go, because they're creating more propulsion in less time, not by trying to kick faster or pull harder, but by getting rid of that space in between kicks and pulls and in between pulls and kicks. And so that's a key thing that swimmers need to learn. The mistake most swimmers make is that they just move the arms and legs faster. That's not what they want to do. They want to eliminate any of those pauses, any of those separations, and keeping the effectiveness and the same skill of the arms and the legs as they move through the water. So if swimmers can figure out how to do that, they're going to be a lot more effective at swimming longer distances because they'll be able to be more efficient, and they'll be more effective at swimming shorter distances because they're going to be able to create more speed. If you want to learn more about how to improve breaststroke timing in order to help swimmers go fast, check out the video below.